Hi, third grade. We're doing hundredths. And here's a definition right at the top of the page. Two places to the right of the ones place is the hundredths place, okay? Ones, decimal point, tenths, hundredths. We put the THS on the end of those words. If we were going this direction, it would be tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, etc. Here we have tenths, hundredths, okay? So 75 out of 100 squares. This is 10 by 10. That's how we know there's 100. 10 times 10 is 100, and you can count each one. But you know, in an array 10 by 10 is 100. We're coloring 75 of those yellow. 75 out of 100, 75 hundredths. How many hundredths are shaded? 75. You can write this amount as a decimal, 0.75. The 7, because it's 75, goes in the tenth space, and the 5 goes in the hundredth space. We have 75 out of 100, okay? Now, look at this. You read them both the same, 75 out of 100 and 0.75 as 75 hundredths. It's the same, okay? Right there. Now, this is where we break it down differently. So we have another 10 grid, 10 by 10. So this has 10 squares shaded, 1 out of 10 columns. All right? Write a fraction and a decimal to represent the number of columns shaded, 1 out of 10, 0.1. 1/10 of them are shaded, okay? And then here, write a fraction and a decimal to represent the number of squares. So there's 100 squares. So we have 10 shaded out of 100. So 1/10 or 10 100ths. And they're written 0.1, 0.10. Okay? Look at the decimals you wrote to represent your model. What do you notice about 0.1 and 0.10? How many hundredths are there in 1/10? There are 10. You can use either number to tell about the shaded part. There's either 1/10 or 10 100ths. Okay? All right, let's move to the next page. Over here, we now shaded the whole thing in. Okay, so look at that. We've got all of it shaded. Let's go that direction. Okay? 9 more shaded. How many columns are shaded? 10. How many tenths are in 1? There are 10 tenths, okay? 10 columns of 10. How many squares are shaded altogether? 100. How many hundredths are there in 1? 100, okay? Now, over here, let's just use this to make it stand out a little bit. In 0.3, there are 0 ones, okay? No ones. 3 tenths and 0 hundredths. In 0.30, there are 0 ones, 3 tenths, and 0 hundredths. Now, you would call this 30 over 100, right? 30 hundredths, okay? That would be what you would call it. Are these numbers the same? Explain why or why not. See, this is out of 10. This is out of 100. It's the same number, but we're counting only out of 10 here, and we're counting out of 100 here. Okay, are these numbers the same? Yes. Use models to prove it. Yes, both have 0 ones and 3 tenths and 0 hundredths. Check the students' models. Okay, we would be using those grids. Okay, so let's do this one here too. 41 hundredths. That would be 0.41. 41 out of 100. I want you to do the rest of the page yourself, and then you're going to do for homework page 157. Okay, 157 is your homework page, and I'll be back. Bye.